Sham's got me thinking it might be time for fraud power rankings, TJ. I got my fraud power rankings right here. This is if you're new to the fraud power rankings, here's how it works. Once upon a time, I was watching Doc Rivers coaching the Clippers. This might have been the bubble Clippers. I think it was Kawhi and Paul George who were still on the Clippers, obviously. And they were crapping down their leg in the bubble, and everyone was pointing fingers at who was to blame. Why were the Clippers? This is when Pandemic P was started. Paul George wanted to be playoff P. Then he sucked during the pandemic and was then referred to as Pandemic P. Also has a podcast, by the way. Shout out Paul. Paul George is cranking out his podcast because he's not playing, so he's got time to do that right now. Anyway, the idea was born out of like trying to rank who was most responsible, who was the most fraudulent on the Clippers, and then ever since then I've just gotten addicted to it, of just like calling out fraudulent behavior in the world of the NBA, because it's fun and it is addicting, and that's how it works. There's the only guy ultimately at the end of the playoff run who is not a fraud is the guy who wins Finals MVP. Everybody else in the league by the end of the season is a fraud and actually sucks at basketball. That's what we learned from listening to basketball talking heads. So anyway, here are your fraud power rankings for this week. At number 5, it pains me to do this because we were just singing his praises not too long ago on the show about how funny he is and how much we like him. Here's a guy who's a villain for a lot of people. It's Trae Young, TJ. Trae Young is number 5 on my fraud power rankings for this reason. 2 years ago, this man averaged 29 points and 10 assists through the playoffs. He led the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals. They lost to the Bucks in 6 games. It looked like the Hawks were starting to build something special. It looked like Trae Young, as you pointed out last time we talked about him talking all that shit in Madison Square Garden was awesome. It was endearing. It felt like it felt like Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, like this generation or this version of what that was in the 90s. It felt like Trae Young, like it was going to establish himself as just a playoff killer. This is who he's going to be. Would he eventually get over the hump? I don't know, but this was going to be fascinating theater to watch Trae Young take on all comers and just, go into a garden and bow, and that was sick. Remember when he did that, when he was like bowing, like you're welcome for the show? He just had so much swag, and this is I was so excited for where Trae Young's career was going to go. So when the Heat lose to the Hawks in the play-in game and the Hawks secure the 7th seed, I didn't actually think the Hawks were going to beat the Celtics, but I thought this will be fun to watch Trae Young because the Celtics might be the best team in the NBA, by the way, and they are absolutely rolling right now, and it's not just because they're playing the Hawks. They just are completely freaking locked in. But I was thinking this is going to be fun to watch Trae Young try to be a superhero. Do I expect him to beat the Celtics? No. Do I expect him to try to become superhuman? Yes. He has not done that, TJ. He's shooting 35% from the field. He's shooting 23% from the three-point line. He's averaging just 20 points, 7 assists, and 5 turnovers through the 2 games against the Celtics so far. I don't know. It's very, very disappointing. I understand this has more to do with how good Boston is defensively. Their length gives them problems. They've done a good job of making Atlanta play in the half court and bottling up Trae in the half court defense. Whereas Miami, part of the reason they lost at home to the Hawks was Atlanta was getting up and down, and not slowing the game down and letting Miami's great defense get set. The Hawks did a good job of getting up and down. But then part of that too is because Miami their offense was terrible, so it's a lot easier to run fast break shit when you're getting rebound misses, whereas the Celtics seem to be scoring a little easier. Anyway, point is, Celtics are shutting down Trae Young. It's very frustrating because I thought this series I didn't think it was going to be like a close series. I thought it'd be a lot more fun, and instead it's just playing out on NBA TV, and it's blowout after blowout, and the Hawks looked like they had a pulse there for 8 minutes yesterday. And then the Celtics going a 17-0 run or something to end the half, and that was that. And so Trae Young, I wanted to see more. There's still time, I guess, technically. We're going back to Atlanta, but the series is pretty much done, and I'm sad because I was hoping this would be a deal of if the Hawks might be down 2-0 after the first 2 games, but Trae Young's averaging 34 points a game, and he had that one shot or that one stretch where he looked like the best player that's not happening at all. Trae Young is just another dude out there right now.
Yep. He also, I don't know if you saw or if you, The Athletic posted a bunch of polls that they did with anonymous NBA players.
Yeah.
And one of the polls was who was the most overrated player in the league. And
he was number one.
54 votes. Number one was other at 31.5%, which I guess is just players naming random players.
European? Other,
yeah. Oter, yeah.
Oter.
Number two was Trae Young, 14% of the vote.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that checks out. I think. Can I guess who the other guys are? Is like Harden on there and Luka on there?
No.
Wow, really? Russ,
Julius Randle, Pascal Siakam, Jimmy Butler, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., R.J. Barrett, Dylan Brooks, Draymond Green, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Austin Reeves.
I don't like that poll. I think that poll is. I mean, you just listed a bunch of guys that are like good, but like I don't think that half those guys aren't even on a level where you could. I don't know. I was thinking overrated. We were going to talk about like the best players on each team, not like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how even even when it's anonymous, I don't know how many NBA players are actually going to throw somebody under the bus like that to a reporter.
Rudy Gobert is a good answer though. The NBA players seem to hate Rudy Gobert, all of them.
He caused COVID.
Yeah, he did.
People forget.
And then he ended COVID. Did you see that? That when he punched Kyle Anderson, Biden, like it was that day or the next morning, Joe Biden like announced or signed. I don't know how it all freaking works, but basically the state of emergency of COVID in this country was officially declared over. the right after Rudy Gobert punched Kyle Anderson.
He did it. Mission accomplished.
Thank you, Rudy. Hashtag thank you, Rudy. No, I get Trae Young being I could see him. That does not surprise me. I'll put it that way. Being so ball dominant and as he's a guy that I think most players look at and think like he should be the second or third best player on this team, and I could do what he does if you gave me the ball as much as he has it, and I think they're all wrong. Most of them are wrong. There are definitely guys who could do it, but yeah. Anyway, in this series right now, I'm in no position to defend Trae Young because the Boston Celtics are doing a plenty good job defending him on their own. See what I did there? Number 4 on the fraud power rankings, the analytics nerds. TJ, the mid range I was told is supposed to be dead. I was told that the NBA has solved basketball in a way that the lower levels of basketball have not figured out yet, which is that if you are shooting anything other than a 3 or a 2, a layup, you are a moron. Mid-range is a bad shot to take, and yet the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Clippers in Game 2 were 21 for 29 from mid-range. They shot 72% from the mid-range. They were absolutely carving the Clippers up. Stan Van Gundy was about to have an aneurysm screaming about the Clippers playing drop coverage. Why are they doing it? I heard the words drop coverage more last night watching the Suns-Clippers game than I've heard in the rest of my life combined. And Stan Van Gundy was right. This isn't me making fun of Stan Van Gundy. He was absolutely correct. He was losing his mind watching Ty Lue continue to guard ball screens by dropping a guy back and letting Chris Paul and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker do whatever they want from the mid-range. They simply would not miss. And yeah, that's as it turns out, making mid-range shots, there's still value to it. And the Suns won the game because of that, because the Clippers, the Suns did what Alabama and Nate Oates refused to do. And it triggered me. It definitely did. Watching the Suns shoot mid-range jump shots, I was triggered as a guy that picked Alabama to win the national championship. I was getting flashbacks to them playing San Diego State, and I was screaming at my television, why would Alabama not go 20? Alabama would have gone 21 for 29 from the mid-range if they just would have simply taken the shots, TJ, but they didn't. Yeah, I'm fired up about this Suns-Clippers series because I think the Suns are. I saw in our sports book we have the Suns still as the favorites in the West, and I don't know. I think the Suns are a fascinating case because they're obviously super freaking talented, and you have 4 guys in Ayton and Durant and Booker and Chris Paul who, 3 of them are going to be Hall of Famers, I imagine. 2 of them are already definitely Hall of Famers. Booker's well on his way. Ayton probably not, but who the hell knows? But he's the number 1 pick and is a very, very, very good player. I just don't. The Suns don't have a ton of depth, and also I don't think they don't strike me as like a tough team, and I find that fascinating because I think the Clippers can punk them a little bit, but yet this game too, they just kind of were playing. That's why I think Stan Van Gundy was losing his mind. It was like the way they were guarding him was like a little more passive than I anticipated. And the Clippers have more length and athleticism and can be disruptive defensively, and they were just kind of sagging off on all these ball screens and letting the Suns shoot whatever they wanted. And I imagine we'll see an adjustment, but I really wish Paul George was playing in this series. I'll put it that way, because I think if Paul George plays, I definitely like the Clippers. But I still think Kawhi is the best player on the floor. I don't care what anybody, you can talk about Durant all you want. Kawhi is the best player in this series, and it's something you often forget about Kawhi Leonard, that he's really, really freaking good, because the man simply just sits out too many games, and we forget to see him play all the time. But when he does play, oh my God, what a treat! What an absolute treat! So I'm fired up for this series. It's gonna be fun.
It is great. Like, it sucks the way that the regular season is so load management based. I think the NBA's playoffs have like the biggest discrepancy in terms of intensity from regular season to playoffs.
Not even close.
Like, you'll get those moments in football when there's big matchups and because there's so few games, and even in baseball and hockey, like, you'll have like big game feel. In the NBA, it's really like Christmas and then a couple feature games here and there, and then the playoffs come and everything shoots up to 11. It's awesome.
Right. It's absolutely awesome. But that's what the Suns are so talented. I'm not downplaying how good they are. They have all the pieces. There's three things I cannot forget about the Suns. Every single time I watch the Suns play, I have these three things going through my head. Number one, they got annihilated on their home court in Game 7 against the Mavs. I will never forget that. We all saw it happen. They absolutely quit. It was the saddest looking team. Like, I just can't forget that. Like, I don't know what I expected out of them. Like, I guess I'm kind of asking that they had started a fight or something, but like that's kind of the fantasy you play in your head. You're like, if I was on that team, I would have thrown punches. You're not kicking my ass in a Game 7. I know it doesn't quite work that way, but also, like, I don't know, maybe somebody have some sort of pride, and they all just had like sad puppy dog looks, like, damn, I guess this is it. And it felt like I don't even care about the Suns, and I felt like I cared more watching it. Like, I've had more pride for them than they had themselves, where I was just yelling, like, how can you let this happen as this is going on? I will never forget that. I will never forget Kevin Durant joining a 73-win team that he was up 3-1 on and blew the series lead against, and then joined them later and ruined basketball for all those years that he was on the Warriors. That was an absolutely soft move. And I will never forget Devin Booker, the video of him getting double teamed in an open gym and crying about it to Joakim Noah and saying, "Are we really going to double team, bro? I want to work on my game." And Joakim Noah's like, "Yeah, this is going to happen. Like, getting double teamed is part of the game, you stupid bitch. Sack up." Those three things together, TJ, give me pause about the Suns, because I just think, like, and Chris Paul also, throw him in the mix. I mean, like, Chris Paul's entire existence. I just think they might be soft, TJ, is what I'm saying. They might be a soft team. It just might be a team full of guys who are super talented, but not exactly the toughest sons of bitches you've ever seen. And I'm fascinated to see how it plays out, because I think Kawhi Leonard is a tough son of a bitch, and I think the Clippers, Terrence Mann is a great defender, and I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun series, and it already has been a fun series. 2 games in is already a fun series, but that is officially. I'm more fascinated by that than Cleveland, New York, than the Cleveland Knicks series, which is the one that I thought I was going to be most excited about. But now I'm in on the Clippers Suns. So there you go. Anyway, number 3 on my fraud power rankings, California Girls. There are 2 very famous songs about California girls. They're both called California Girls. The Beach Boys had a song back in the day that was like I'm sure it was number 1 back in the day. I don't know. I wasn't around for this. And then Katy Perry makes the song titled the exact same thing, called California Girls. And the whole idea, TJ, is that nowhere else on this planet will you find women more attractive than the California women. I think that might actually be false. Obviously, not all California girls are babes, because Jordan Poole is playing like absolute shit in Sacramento, and I am a guy who cannot get enough of the Jordan Poole baddies memes. I'm sure you're aware of this. You're plugged into your memes that when Jordan Poole, when there are babes on the front row at a Warriors game, Jordan Poole plays better. This is like scientific fact, and this has become a thing that, like I said, I can't get enough of it. Every time there's a clip of like some attractive woman sitting courtside at a Warriors game and Jordan Poole, like, hits a shot and gets an and one, and he's like doing like finger guns at her, like he turns his swag all the way up when the hot chicks are in the crowd. And Jordan Poole has played like ass. He played like ass in game 2. He wasn't that bad in game 1, but his defense is so bad. He might be the worst defender that's like getting, I don't know, I'd have to think about it. There's some bad defenders in the league. He's among the worst defenders that gets major minutes on teams that are supposed to be contenders. And that's fine if he also pours in points. Game 2, he was 1 for 7. He scored 4 points. I need Jordan Poole to get back. Forget Draymond, forget all the Sabonis situation. I need Jordan Poole to lock back in. If this is going to be a good series, I need him to care like one iota on defense, which is probably a lost cause at this point. Or I need him to. I need some babes of San Francisco to show up to the game 3 and get him going, because I do believe in that. By the way, I don't think that's a joke. I think Jordan Poole really does play better if there are hot chicks sitting courtside for his games. I truly believe this.
If the Warriors were smart as an organization, they would make sure that was set up ahead of time before the game tomorrow.
I assume they will. I assume that's what's going to happen. I have to believe that that's what's going to happen. But yeah, tough look for the Sacramento women then, huh?
Yeah.
Like if that was my takeaway. I was like, man, the women of Sacramento just must not be that attractive.
Well, as we talked about last time, the Kings fans were Kings fans in the early 2000s. Then they became Warriors fans.
Then they became Warriors fans.
So they're probably in their 40s, in their early 40s then, that maybe aged out of Poole's target range, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
so
I
they
think
might be baddies, but, not the right flavor.
Yeah. Not the right. Jordan Poole, this is shocking. Jordan Poole is 23 years old. He's the sixth man of a team, and he has 5 games in his career already of 25 or more points that he scored as a sixth man who's 23 years old. That's wild. So, like, yes, I do agree with people that are of the opinion that Jordan Poole stinks and he's a liability for the Warriors, and why is he getting so much burn right now if he's going to play this way? All of that tracks, but also this man is good, and we've seen him be very, very good. And I again, like the defensive side, I do think that's a lost cause. I think if you're giving Jordan Poole a ton of burn, you're saying, we're hoping you give up 20 points, but you score 27. I think that's the idea. It's like you're gonna give up a ton, but like you're gonna make it up on the other end. Going 1 for 7 for 4 points can't happen. And I blame the women of Sacramento. I was led to believe that the California girls are the hottest in this country, TJ. But apparently it's just the LA and it's the SoCal girls. Maybe it's SoCal girl. I think the Lakers fans, I got to think this through. So the Kings fans were the Warriors fans as the Warriors started winning. Because I think like some of the women that go to the Warriors games now, I think they're actually LA women. I think the LA women are flying up to San Francisco and sitting courtside. I think we're getting a lot of that going on. I don't think I think it's a NorCal SoCal thing, and I'm obviously a SoCal guy, so I'm Team SoCal as having this. I think SoCal has all the baddies, and I think this is Jordan Poole's problem.
This is good. This is good discourse right here.
This is good. Is that gonna do numbers on TikTok?
He's also the type of guy, Jordan Poole. I can't hear his name or watch his highlights without thinking about his buzzer beater against Houston.
Oh yeah.
That's such a classic. Like when I'm in a clip, a YouTube clip rabbit hole, that's such a go-to. Is his buzzer beater in the second round.
Completely pulled out of his ass too. Like it was just a complete like
he hucked it.
She just hucked it. It goes in, and it's kind of his hero origin story, where from that moment on, this man has had an insane amount of confidence. I mean, he's always had a ton of confidence, but like that went down, and at that point, he's like, I'm special, and obviously, there's some sort of destiny to like my basketball career that like I will always make every shot I throw up, no matter what. And
there's probably like nobody's in the crowd for that game, because that game was in Wichita, Kansas, so there was almost definitely no women in the arena.
Let's go back and crunch the tape and figure out. How hot were the women of Wichita when he hit that shot? I think Draymond being out for Game 3 is going to do wonders for Jordan Poole. That's my prediction. I think having to play alongside a teammate that punched you in the face, I think I don't think he's wired for that. I think he's here for a good time. I don't think he doesn't have the Steve Kerr in him where Steve Kerr got punched by Michael Jordan and it locked him in. And Steve Kerr's respect, man. I respect you for that. And also Draymond Green isn't Michael Jordan. So I think when Steve Kerr was punched in the face by Jordan, it actually helped Steve Kerr. But I don't think that was the case with Jordan Poole. I think now that Draymond's out of the picture, maybe he can cook a little bit. We'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping so. Number 2 on the fraud power rankings. Oh boy, the algorithm will love this one. This one will do great on TikTok, and I think this will invite a new crowd to the show that I probably don't want, but numbers are numbers. We treat them all the same, I guess. Modern medicine is fraudulent, TJ.
Go off.
I'm calling out modern medicine. Because if Domantas Sabonis is actually questionable for Game 3, we have a health crisis in this country that we need to figure out, how a man who got lightly stepped on can be a professional athlete, can be a big man, no less, can have a father who's, I guess this is, I was going to, damn it, I thought that would help my case. I was going to say his father used to guard Shaquille O'Neal all the time, and he has that in his DNA, but then I remembered as I started going down that path that his father flopped all the time. Arvydas Sabonis is big time flopper, that guy. But yeah, he did guard Shaq, and I mean his dad would get destroyed by Shaq, and he kept ticking. Never a problem. So if Domantas Sabonis is in fact questionable for Game 3, then I'm calling out modern medicine, and I'm saying that we have to figure this out. We have to figure out a sternum contusion. You have a bruised chest, not even a broken rib, not even that's all you're giving me. I don't know, man. I don't. Where do you stand on this in terms of is this is obviously very soft, but does some part of you respect this, TJ, that there's gamesmanship going on? Because I think he was milking it to maybe get Draymond suspended. And then now they're doing the questionable thing. I guess if you're going down that path, you would argue that it's just, to throw the Warriors off of will he play, won't he play, to make, I don't know, to make Draymond look even worse, something like that, where really obviously within the Kings locker room they know he's going to play and they know he's fine. Is he just an enormous bitch, or is this 4D chess that they're playing here?
It could be a directive sent down from the team, as they were waiting for the suspension to happen or not. Hey, just be hurt, be really hurt.
Yeah, be really hurt. Let's go run a ton of tests so we really milk this to make it look. Yeah.
I thought you were going to blame the vaccine for a minute there.
Should I? Would that help?
Yeah. Is he vaccinated? Domantas Sabonis got a booster, and now his chest is caving in.
No, I mean, it is a horrendous look for Domantas Sabonis to be questionable. Days after DeMar Hamlin. I know it's an apples and oranges comparison. I know it's not the same thing. I know, but also I'm just the optics. If we're going, just the idea that DeMar Hamlin literally dies on a football field and they revive him, and now he's cleared to play, and he's sweet, I'm gonna play. Great, this is what I've been waiting on. Can't wait to play. I'm gonna get back out there, and then Domantas Sabonis gets a WWE chest stomp, and he's
The way he was rolling around on the ground was the same level of concern. It was we don't know what's happening here. It's okay. And then you saw a replay. It was oh, his shoelaces might have brushed against his jersey. Let's get the stretcher out.
He's freaking Nancy Kerrigan just yelling, why? It's one of my favorite clips. It shouldn't be. That's how I know I'm an asshole. Every time I watch that Nancy Kerrigan clip, I laugh, and I shouldn't. It's very bad. And I saw Tanya, and I feel bad for Nancy Kerrigan, but I just can't help it. It's just funny. It's just funny. I don't know why it's funny. It is to me. I'm sorry. Apologies to the Kerrigan family. Number 1 on the fraud power rankings, sticking with the Sabonis and Draymond incident. My number one fraud this week is Joe Dumars, former Detroit Pistons legend, Hall of Famer, who is apparently the NBA executive VP and is the guy in charge of disciplinary decisions, and is going on ESPN and talking about the decision to suspend Draymond Green. And the reason I have him at number one on the fraud power rankings, TJ, not for his judgment one way or the other. I don't care if he suspended Draymond for the series, if he did no suspension, anything else. I didn't realize that Joe Dumars was the guy that makes these decisions. That's why he's a fraud to me. This man he played for the Bad Boys Pistons. They were literally called the Bad Boys, and now he's working for the man. This feels like the most sellout move in the history of pro basketball. This is insane to me. That a man who he really wasn't one of the bad boys, I guess, if you were going to be devil's advocate and be his defense attorney. That was more Lambeer. More, Dennis Rodman when he was on the Pistons. More Isaiah Thomas would mix it up with guys every so often. That really wasn't Joe Dumars quite as much. But still, for you to be in that world, you are in the bad boys locker room. He is one of the bad boys. He will always be one of the bad boys. The Bad Boys Pistons. You talk about the Bad Boys Pistons, you talk about Joe Dumars, and now you talk about the front office of the NBA and the guys who make the decisions and the guys who are basically the police now. And it's Joe Dumars. He's the guy in charge. The guy who is. Well, what is going on here? This is not.
You want to talk about villain arc? That's like some.
That's a villain
Batman
arc.
Shit.
That is a villain arc, dude. That is I mean I knew Joe Dumars was like a front office guy because I think he actually did work for the Kings not too long ago. Yeah. He used to. Was he the Pistons GM or he was in the front, like he's worked in front offices before, and I know he's like stuck around basketball and all that sort of thing. I had no idea that this man was singularly in charge basically of making disciplinary decisions. He is now the one thing that he was fighting against. How can you be a bad boy and then also be the guy who's making all these decisions? It makes no sense.
Either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Yeah, so there you go. That's those are your fraud power rankings for the week.